air duct.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody calm down.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor just had another huge news update after the IGN gameplay dropped. The marketing has really picked up steam for this game, and wow is it hard to keep up with it all. In this update, you see new enemy types and confirmation of the factions seen in the gameplay, as well as when we're going to get news next. Really, we're going to be going over everything you may have missed after the IGN gameplay dropped. If this is your first time here, show me how excited you are by leaving a thumbs up on this video. Now, let's dive straight into this awesome news. IGN obviously dropped the gameplay you're seeing on screen right now, and a few days later, they had dropped this bombshell of an article going over all of these enemies and how they'll stack up against Cal, as well as some new info about who the enemies that you are fighting are in the gameplay. We get a closer look at the B1, B2, BX-Commandos, Droideka, Magnagaurds, and more. Let's go through what they have to say about these enemies. The B1 droids cover the role of the fodder enemy archetype and the planet Koboh. You're usually as weak as can be, falling to just a single saber slash or reflected blaster shot, but they're usually found in large groups and can still be a dangerous threat thanks to their range and their tendency for hitting Cal while they're off screen. Most notably though, their banter is hilarious. Respawn has really upped their game in Jedi Survivor when it comes to amusing enemy conversations, so while it may be tempting to just wipe them all out in a single force push, exercise some restraint for a few months and let the dialogue play out, and you'll be rewarded with a good laugh. Something I find super cool about what they showed for the B1 is there's two variants, the one with the normal blaster and the one with the heavy clone minigun. This will definitely be an interesting way of switching up the way you look at B1s in the game and how you handle them. They go on to say the B2 droids are the bruisers of the droid family. They take a fair amount of hits to bring down and can pack a heavy melee punch while also being armed with both a blaster and a missile launcher to deal damage from afar. There's certainly no pushover, that's for sure, but fall in this really nice spot where once you learn the time to parry, they're on their melee attacks, reflect their blaster shots, and always be on the lookout for force pulls of their missiles, they become a much less of a threat. Again, two different types of B2s are being shown here. One looks like the normal B2 and the other is the rocket B2. Their missiles can be deadly, so keep an eye out for those. BX-Commando Droids are some of the more agile droids and will surely put your melee combat skills to the test, as they will regularly parry your attacks and execute multi-hitting spin techniques, while also leaping around the battlefield and being an elusive target. These droids have canonically been shown to use vibro swords to go up against Jedi, which, according to the team, really gave them a perfect mid-level enemy that they can go toe-to-go with against Cal without feeling too fragile. Something I found really interesting about this is that these BX Commandos are the third highest droid on their tier lists. They say this is a mid-level droid, and honestly, we've seen BX Commandos be super deadly to Jedi, and always seem to have give the Republic a bit more of a headache than even the Magnagaurds. Interesting choice that they made them a mid-tier enemy, but at least they're both in the game. You may know them as destroyer droids or those rolling droids from the prequels, but they're actually called Droidekas. Yeah, we knew that. I didn't get a chance to face off against these in my own playtime, but from what I was told by the design director Jason D. Harris, fans should expect them to behave as you'd expect from the movies and shows. They've got the bubble shield, that's the classic to the IP, so you know we have to use that. We have to find a way to make that into the design. So they've got the bubble shield, they roll, and they're actually incorporate that into their melee. So you can't just stun lock it forever, he said.
Yo, this is TheAsTROLLmech from the future while editing this video. Did they just say that Droidekas are gonna melee? That's an interesting choice. I was just kind of like reading the quote and that just went over my head. The Droideka is gonna have a melee option? That's interesting, but I'm here for it.
I'm super glad that they're going all out with the Droidekas with the shields. Hopefully, we'll get to see more of them in the gameplay we're getting soon that we're going to be talking about once I get through this article. The IG-100 Magnagaurds are highly formidable enemies that anyone who's a big fan of the Clone Wars series should immediately recognize. These are General Grievous's elite bodyguards, and as such, they are highly skilled melee warriors that can give a Jedi a run for their money. The Harris describes the Magnagaurds as a superior elite type of enemy that can be offensive, defensive, counter you, and attack in weird rhythms to try and throw out your counters. Again, it's interesting that they seemingly made the Magnagaurds more difficult and less common than the BX droids, but I guess when they explain that they're Grievous's elite bodyguards, it makes a little bit more sense. It does sound like these are going to be a somewhat replacement of the Purge Troopers in this game. The Shield Trooper was born from a simple need. The team wanted a Scout Trooper that survived a little bit longer, but as with just about every enemy in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, there are several ways to bring them down. You could hack away at their shield with your lightsaber and eventually knock it away, but that would make you pretty vulnerable to other enemies surrounding you. You could try to maneuver around it and slash its back, but they're generally pretty good at tracking you, and you'd have to find some way to distract them. The ideal way to deal with them, though, is to hold down your force pull to yank their shield away, and then Captain America it right back at them. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is full of moments like this where you can use your force abilities in ways that make sense to gain an advantage in combat without explicitly being told to do so. And honestly, I'm not very excited about this enemy, I'll be honest. However, what does pique my interest here is how you can Captain America them with the shield. I'm definitely going to figure out how to do this move when we stream the game live on this channel. The impetus for the DT Sentry Droid was that the team needed a big brute enemy, and so Respawn turned to Star Wars Rebels and found this guy. One of the things that was really appealing about the DT Sentry Droid as an enemy was that they could have different loadouts. So there are 3 variations of this enemy that you'll be doing battle with. One might have a staff and a missile, another might have a hammer, and another might come equipped with a blaster. Shinjido said that the fans of Rebels and the Bad Batch should understand how menacing these droids are, and that the first moment you encounter them will be a real oh shit kind of moment. DeHarris also added that these are one of the few droids where you could hack off one of their limbs and they'd still come after you, with his combat capabilities impacted by the loss of a limb. I'm super glad they're adding more enemy types, and they're adding dismemberment for these droids. And they definitely did their research and dove into Star Wars Rebels for information about existing enemies to build off of, instead of just going off and making their own thing. That I do really appreciate. The KX Security Droid Enforcer appeared in Fallen Order famously as a droid that likes to grab and chokeslam you. This particular variant, however, will not be doing any chokeslams, as now they come equipped with the stun baton. Thank God. The weapon of the Scout Troopers. The story behind this is that these droids were used as the trainers of Scout Troopers, and thus are basically 3 times as dangerous as a Scout Trooper would be. DeHarris said that they wanted to make the KX droid in Survivor a brawler type of enemy that could block and counter, and that they had thought about making it a hybrid style of enemy that could also grab you. I find it really interesting that they added lore to the different kinds of KX droids, and thank God those chokeslams aren't returning. They finish it off by saying, this is but a small sample size of the enemies that players can expect to encounter over the course of their journey in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. There are still all sorts of hostile wildlife that you'll encounter on various planets, plus Imperialists and other human factions like the Beldam Raiders found on Koboh. It's also just a small part of our continued coverage of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so keep checking IGN all throughout the month of February for more. So before we go on to what they just said at the end there, they said the faction on Koboh is called the Bedlam Raiders. It seems like this is a new faction Respawn made for the game who utilizes these battle droids, so interested to see how they got their hands on so many of them. Now, they said there is more news coming this month in February, and I can't wait to see it. Thankfully, we actually know what else will be coming this month, as well as when and where we'll get it. It is confirmed that Star Wars Jedi Survivor will be a part of IGN Fan Fest 2023, the special live stream at 10 a.m. PST or 1 p.m. EST on February 17th. There, it was confirmed that we will be seeing design director Jeff Majors show off a brand new look at the game and walk us through some of the new and exciting areas players can expect when the game releases on April 28th. With all this new marketing ramping up over the 2 months before the game releases, I'm sure we'll have a lot to cover in the future when it comes to Star Wars Jedi Survivor. If you're hyped for this news, let me know by subscribing so you'll stay up to date with all of the future news about upcoming Star Wars games. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.